Josh, so good to see you. I really want to talk about this interesting article I found recently. More older adults are unretiring to keep up with the cost of living. A new survey from AARP shows more retirees are heading back to work. In fact, in the past 6 months, 7% of retirees have returned to the labor force. So, what does this increase tell you about how fragile many retirement plans actually are?
Well, the big thing that we see a lot of times is people don't actually have a retirement plan. They
Yeah.
just have retirement savings. And what we like to tell people is, your 401k is a retirement account. It's not a retirement plan. A plan
Right.
has action steps, and you know where you're taking the money, why, when, what the taxable event is going to be, and how long it's going to last, and how inflation is going to affect that.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up inflation because that was a huge reason for people unretiring. 48% said they returned to work because of financial necessity, and 41% say daily living costs were their biggest motivation. So, how do you stress test retirement income plans for inflation so clients aren't forced back to work?
Yeah, inflation is really the silent killer of retirement
Hmm.
plans because people think that they're going to spend more in the beginning of retirement and then they'll gradually do less and spend less money at the end of retirement, which is actually true. You have your go years and your slow go years and then your no go years. But what happens is you're doing more in the beginning, but things are cheaper. And as you get older, things get more and more expensive. You got to think about what it cost you to buy your groceries 20 years ago versus what it costs today. Well, that's going to happen again over the next 20 years, maybe
Right.
even worse because inflation has been faster recently than what we've seen in the past. So
Right.
inflation needs to be a very, very key consideration in your retirement plan, knowing that things are going to get more expensive. And a lot of times, some of the things that you're doing for yourself now, in the future, you're not going to want to or be able to do for yourself, and you're going to end up having to pay people to do that. And
Yeah,
so inflation
exactly.
is key, and that needs to be part of your plan. You need to know that these things, groceries, medical expenses, especially medical expenses, are going to go through the roof over your retirement. And that needs to be accounted for when you're planning for your how much withdrawal you're going to have to take out of your accounts.
Absolutely. So that's kind of the financial component. On the other hand, 15% who unretired said boredom was the main reason to go back to work. 14% said it was to stay active. So how does choosing to return to work change a client's income plan and withdrawal strategies?
Yeah, choosing to retire to go back to work for your personal benefit, for your enjoyment or whatever, is a big difference than being forced to go back
Right.
to work for financial needs. But if that's you and you end up making more money, then there's things that can be adjusted, your amount of withdrawal from your retirement accounts. If need be, you can actually stop your Social Security check. A lot of people are unaware that you can stop your Social Security check once it starts, or you can just go back to work part time in order to delay Social Security and get those extra credits and get a bigger check for later.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people just do something they enjoy, whether it's work at the health club or at the
Yep.
golf club for free membership or social activities or something of that nature.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. All right, one last stat to throw at you. The survey also found 67% of older workers say it would be difficult to find a new job today, citing age discrimination and health issues. From a planning perspective, how dangerous is it for retirees to simply assume they can go back to work if markets fall or expenses rise?
Yeah, this is why it's important to be sure that you can afford to retire when you retire because going back to work is very difficult. You got to think of how many years you put in at that last company to get to the level you were at. And that's probably the highest earnings you ever reached because of your level of expertise, your time served, and the
Hmm.
amount of just the knowledge you have there. And to go start over at these older ages in your 60s and 70s can be difficult because employers are afraid that you're only going to work 6 months to 2 years.
Right.
And
Yeah.
by the time you become helpful to them, you're going to want to retire again.
Right.
So you have to be careful of that. To replace the job that you retired from is very, very difficult.
Mhm. I'm glad we get to talk this through because, like I said, I found it very eye-opening. And we all remember in the very recent past, inflation rates being 8%, which is why stress testing your income plan, if you have a plan at all, is so important. So, Josh, if somebody wants to, again, get this plan in place, find out if they can retire once and do it right, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, they can call us directly at the office at 260-488-8300 or jump on the website and schedule a meeting at millardfg.com.
Great. Josh, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Erin.